Hey everyone, welcome back to the Essentials channel. I hope you've liked the content so far. So today is part 3 of our selection essentials, which actually can serve both purposes of how do we choose a new development, but most importantly, on the resale part of things as well. Alright, so if you like my channel so far and you like the content that we have been doing, please continue to like, share and subscribe. Alright, it really brings me a lot of motivation as I see this channel steadily growing. I'm thinking about new initiatives regarding this channel as I seek to continue building this essentials community. So today is part 3 of the selection essentials. It's also known as the ARPS framework or the QPE framework. So how this came about is actually I sat down with 2 of my leaders in Medlam Advisory, and these people are actually the best in what they do, which is the resale market, and how they identify very strong projects with clear exit strategy and appreciation despite it being a resale. And of course, because resale is a lot more dynamic and fluid, alright, I definitely wish that there is some form of system or structure within the fluidity so that it can help our consumers and most importantly our agents to be able to identify good resale strategies or properties, but also not only that, it can also be used to determine for new launch the exit strategy. Because these 2 leaders' specialization is in resale, they can talk and look at different aspects and metrics and elements of resale to actually determine is this a good resale. But you know me, being a very structured guy, is there a way that it cannot be so dynamic? Can it follow a certain metric, attribute and thought process to help consumers determine if this is a good resale and of course a good new launch with good exit strategy, where we have this framework called the ARPS system or QPE framework. So basically what the ARPS system consists of, it consists of 3 aspects: quality, price, exit strategy. So within this system itself, we actually go from micro to macro aspects. We will check out the layouts, we'll check out the developer, the landscaping, the number of units, so on and so forth. The whole idea is this: it is to take out your point of view versus my point of view, right? We want something that is a neutral point of view, a third-party system that will be able to tick the box or check the boxes, right, of whether is this a good resale or bad resale. Does it mean that it has one less factor? It will mean that it's bad resale. Does it mean that it's not close to an MRT? There is a bad resale or bad new launch? Or is it the entire holistic picture that comes together that determines whether this unit has a good exit strategy or not? We'll find out in the next few minutes. But most importantly, are you overpaying or underpaying? Is it always just about negotiating the best price? Am I right to say that if you can see a clear exit strategy, depending on how the market is moving in the current point, alright, sometimes you need to pay a little bit more because of the market movement? Am I right to say if you see a clear exit strategy, you'll be willing to offer whatever the market needs you to offer? And that's what we are here for. Where we are not here to just blatantly say entry price is everything and then you just negotiate and lowball the owners, especially with the current undersupply in the market. Why I say undersupply? Because if you look at new launch, we're only left with less than 4,000 units in the market with lesser new developments to choose from. Am I right to say people will soon go for resale? And it will be the upcoming trend of resale, where you see prices will start to rise as well. New launch prices are pretty high as well, but in that sense, are we able to see a clear exit strategy? If both have clear exit strategies and you are able to identify it, am I right to say you'll be able to have an easier time accepting the current entry price and starting your building capital journey? So let's preset some attributes first. The focal point here is using resale to understand this framework. But from here, after you understand this framework, you can also use this and apply it onto the new developments to determine the exit strategy, right? Just to be clear so that you don't confuse along the way, because this series was meant to be a new launch series, but I also want to show you a different viewpoint on how we use this as a resale angle and how can we use this to apply back to the new launch side of things. Alright, so if you look at this, one major problem about resale is too dynamic, where different preferences and factors can affect choice and exit strategy. What you feel may be a good resale may not be what I feel is a good resale, and we are constantly hindered by our own personal opinions as an agent as well as a consumer yourself. Alright, so is there something that we can take both ourselves out of the picture and really look at this development and unit objectively through our metric, like a third-party system that is not affected by biasness or personal point of views? Alright, what we want is something that we can walk through a thought process step by step, a clear framework and analysis to help you determine, is this a good resale or not? Alright, so we can see here, most importantly, how do we ensure that we are not overpaying but yet not underpaying so that we can avoid a price war? Alright, more often than not, every other agent will tell you, I'll fight for you for your best entry price. Alright, but in the end, what they are just doing is to lowball owners and owners' agents, and ultimately the biggest loser is who? Is the buyer himself, because he will realize that after lowballing there may be another alternative offer from another party, and because that party knows the market well, alright, he will offer the market pricing or slightly even better just to get the unit he wants. But you yourself being a consumer also want this unit, end up you both will enter a price war. Alright, and ultimately the biggest winner will be the seller, the biggest loser will be the one that wins the winning bid law. With that in mind, how can we ensure that we choose correctly and offer correctly? Alright, and that's why we came up with this Resale Essentials ARPS system. So here are three main qualities to fulfill: quality, entry price, and exit strategy. So what does quality consist of? It consists of, we go from micro to macro, because why? Layout is most important when it comes to exit strategy. Alright, so am I right to say, if you are a resale buyer or if you were a seller before, you would notice one thing: the consumers on the ground, the minute they see certain layouts that they cannot accept, they will rule out the entire development totally. Right, on the ground, alright, you will hear people saying, yeah, this particular project, the layout I don't like, this whole project don't need to see. Alright, you will either tell your agent that or you tell yourself that. With that in mind, am I right to say layout then plays the biggest role? Alright, so that's why we start off the metric under the segment of quality. We start off the metric with the micro aspect of things, which is the efficient layout. Any odd shape or long corridors, does it have reasonable sizing relative to the unit? You don't want the unit being too big for its own good. Alright, meaning to say, let's say a 3-bedroom at 1,600 square feet. Now, that's too big because why? 1,600 square feet is actually a 4 or even a 5-bedroom sizing. Alright, you don't want a 1-bedroom at 800 square feet because why? 800 square feet can actually be a 2-bedroom or even a 3-bedroom compact with today's harmonization. So are you exceeding the relative units sizing or not? Number 3, no major negatives such as facing highway, detrimental factors that you know confirm your future buyer and even yourself cannot accept. Certain livability factors that are in question, such as full west sun facing, where you can see the sun actually descend down the horizon. Highway facing, where the highway actually comes straight into the house before turning into a curved route. That itself exposes you to maximum exposure of road noise, dust, so on and so forth. Is there any detrimental factor that really affects the livability for this particular unit itself? Does it have strong design ethos? So for our framework itself, for each bedroom type, we have certain design ethos that we strongly believe in. For example, a 1-bedroom, the best is it has the master bathroom having a Jack and Jill access so that a visitor does not have to go through the master just to get to the toilet when he visits your house. For 2 bedrooms, it's always best to have anything closer to 700 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, with an enclosable kitchen. For 3-bedroom, it definitely has to hit something that is above 900 square feet with 2 toilets, enclosed kitchen, and best is to have the yard for maximum exit strategy. Followed by the 4-bedrooms, best they have a junior suite, and the 5-bedroom must have the dumbbell layout junior suite with landscape layout, so on and so forth. So we have this to keep you in check. Next, we move on to the bigger picture, which is the development itself. We will check whether does it hit at least above 60,000 square feet in terms of land size. This will fall under the classification of a medium-sized land plot where we can see suitable amount of facilities present in the development itself to cater to livability factors of families. Do I have space for my kids to run around? Do I have community living inside so that it brings in natural demand? Next, does it have good design land, or is it in a trapezium odd-shaped land that is very difficult to design and place the blocks apart from each other? The unit distribution, the site distribution, the blocks distribution, how does it fare? Alright, the next thing will be, of course, reputable developer, because you will want a reputable developer just like every other consumer to be helming the project. You know that they will provide very good quality finishings with livability in check, layouts are efficient with big room size, right? You know certain developers have certain signature trademark points about them whenever they develop their projects. Next, does it have full facilities with good landscaping? Goes back to the second point of good design land. Alright, does it have reasonable density of units? For me, most of the time, I would set the metric at about more than 250 units. Of course, it does not need to be a hard and fast number of 250. It can be about 230, 240, 249. You get the point. Alright, but this is just to ensure sufficient volume sustains the pricing for this particular development. Does it have good distance and setbacks between units? And of course, does it have minimally reasonable views? You don't want one to have a golden view, but the other one is just crappy views, and that will cause price fluctuations within the development. It will dilute the prices. Alright, so this is for the mid-macro portion where we touch on the project specific considerations. Next, we go on to the even bigger picture, which is the macro quality considerations. This is the sentiments that surround this development. Does it have urban development and renewal, which is your transformation and rejuvenation? Straightforward. Next will be your good transportation linkages. Does it have good accessibility? Does it have bus routes? Alright, does it have bus options for you? Is it easy to hail a cab here? Alright, is it some place where people are familiar with and easy to get to? Alright, of course you have the MRT access, but you can see out of so many points that I've just listed and spending the last 5 to 10 minutes going through here, MRT access just plays a small part in the entire attribute and specification and analysis. Alright, I'm sure you have seen certain projects like Key Residences that has no MRT but has made an average profit of more than 500 PSF over the last 3 to 4 years. I'm sure you see Clairvaughn that does not have an MRT, still making sizable amount of profits with the 4 bedrooms getting an appreciation of 1 mil. So is it just so much about MRT? So for those consumers out there who is always thinking that we must definitely have MRT access, may not be so true also, because there are many other attributes, and especially with decentralization happening, it definitely does ensure that each township we have people that they are familiar with as they grew up here. People already have accustomed to certain attributes of this whole area. Alright, so it's more about the livability factor, whether this development itself is livable. So the keyword you have been seeing in my video so far, whether it's in this video or multiple other videos, is all about livability. Doesn't mean that it does not have an MRT means it's not livable. It is, and especially with the emergence of Grab today, I think, alright, people are more and more accepting. We got Soul Acres, right, which is an EC, right, that does not have that much accessibility. Let's not even talk about an MRT. Today, they are still making profits of 800k to 1.2 million. Do not be tunnel vision into just one particular factor and be hindered by your own thought process or preferences, because those are actually emotional factors. So next, we have amenities in the vicinity. Whether do they have cafes, supermarket, wet market, parks and recreation in vicinity, education institution in vicinity, right? Whether are you close to schools, right? Again, school factor is a big attribute for a lot of buyers and consumers out there, alright? But is it true that just because you don't have a school, this place is not profitable? Or is it because in this area there's 2 schools, one is better than the other, and then you decide not to purchase this project when actually school is always about demand and supply? Alright, so the comparison of school itself, sometimes consumer may be too tunnel vision, thinking that that's the only driving factor in terms of demand. Is it true? You can see we have so many factors here in place. It just covers one small portion and attribute of things. Right, next, of course, we have the strong commercial note. Whether does it have a strong tenant pool? Of course, the next metric that we will look at is pricing, because it falls under ARPS. ARPS means what? Automated Resale Profiling System. QPE is of course the representation of the attributes: quality, pricing, exit. So now we are in the pricing, the price matrix of the whole aspect. Alright, so if we look at it, does it have reasonable PSF versus current supply of units? The total quantum of purchase, does it exceed what a 3-bedroom should be costing at for that range? Alright, sometimes, like what I said, because the unit itself is too big for its own good, like 1,600 square feet for a 3-bedroom, when actually there are 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms that are already 1,600 square feet. You are already eating into a range of a 4-bedroom size, and because of that, you multiply by the PSF, you get a inflated quantum, and with that inflated quantum, you are already eating into a 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom pricing. You pay a 3-bedroom for a 4-bedroom pricing, right? That is a concern down there. And then next, of course, is the floor level. The difference per floor should be about 10 to 15k for resale. Alright, rental yield percent to check if you are overpaying. We will be using 3% as a benchmark. So, meaning to say, if we take the current transacted rental price and peg it against the property guru asking price, right, we'll be able to see whether are you getting 3% yield. Then I would say it is quite normal, right? You are actually not overpaying. And of course, the third way we can actually check whether are you overpaying is we divide the price by the remaining age, multiply by 99, and we compare it to the surrounding nearest, newest new launch, so that we can see whether for this resale, are you overpaying or not. Next is the historical pricing, because why would you want something that is not having a good track record? You would want something that historically it is on an uptrend, so that buyers will have confidence to pay for more, especially when you're buying for resale. You don't want something that is going down, you want something that is going up, so that when you buy in at a certain price point, you know and you have confidence that there will be new buyers that will be able to take over at a higher price range. Now comes the constant question, what about those that give fire sale? I have two answers for you down here. The first answer is, in today's market, as long as the development or the unit is selling at market price or asking at market price, there is no reason why the unit will not move. There must be certain detrimental micro attributes of the unit that is affecting the sale price. Otherwise, by right in Singapore, being so price sensitive consumers, the minute they see that the unit is at market value and not overpriced, there is a natural demand, people will go for it, because in Singapore, buying property is a need. But if the need is not met due to certain micro attributes, that's why even at market value, the unit doesn't move. We can take, for example, One Shenton, where we see units that are losing money. Alright, anytime they are easily 500 to even 1,000 per square foot cheaper than what they bought. To a lot of consumers out there, this may actually be a very good opportunity to get in. But the key question to ask is this: why do they need to sell below market value just to get it sold? Means inside must have detrimental micro attributes, such as maybe the layout has bay windows, or too much of the space is being eaten by planter or balcony space, that it does not fulfill the livability needs. When you go downstairs in the weekends, it's like a dead town. Is that where you want your family to be? And we talk about facilities. Does it have big land space for your kids to run around? Right, all these are livability factors that are not in check, and that's why you see One Shenton in the rates. So we have to take note of this. And the key question, the next answer is, if everything is on a downward trend, the key question to ask is, when will it be the end? Right, they are on rental still. They are largely bought by foreigners as well. Anytime anything happens, they want to cash out, they can just decide to sell. Alright, there is no end to this downward trend. Of course, it cannot go until zero lah, but you will never know when is your next low point going to be. So that's why historical pricing and track record, you want something that's on an upward trend, because you want your future resale buyer to actually have more confidence to put in something higher rather than put in something lower. Am I right or not? Food for thought for everybody. Next will be the third attribute, which is the E, the exit strategy. So here are a few exit considerations that we can talk about. Level or supply of competition in the vicinity. Just like my previous video in the part 1, where we talk about demand and supply within the area, where we cite examples of Redhill versus Toa Payoh. Alright, you can see one has more than 10 developments for about 140k population, while the other one has only 2 to 3 developments for 120k population. We can see the annualized returns for both of them and the ease of resellability, the difference between both of them, that we can understand which one can actually exit faster. 2, the level of demand in future. If we can identify who is going to buy from us in terms of our resale, that would itself fulfill the exit consideration. 99 versus freehold scarcity in the vicinity. Alright, of course, if you have everything around you all being 99, then naturally you buy a 99, is okay lah. But if you have everything around you all being freehold and you're the only 99 down there, then we better make sure and check the entry price, whether is it a wide enough spread to make sure you are safe and you can exit in the future. If you are the only freehold there and everybody else is 99, then naturally you have a very good advantage, and because of the pricing attribute that we will check, we will make sure whether are you overpaying or not. Then we will do a final check. Does the quality fit the criteria? Does the entry price fit the criteria? Does it provide a strong exit strategy? And here are some examples of who your exits are. For 1 bedroom, it's investor only and some singles. For 2 bedroom, investors, singles and couples. For 3 bedroom, investors, singles, couples and small families, very high natural demand. Of course, the 4 bedroom and above, we have investors, couples, small families and large families. Naturally, this one has the highest natural demand, and because Singapore property is a need, the livability factors are in check, your natural demand will be the highest at the 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, so on and so forth. So of course this is applied for the 99 leasehold, but what about a freehold property? How do we check whether is this relevant? So we place a bit of advantage for the freehold. For the 99s, we will take it from the day the land was sold, and because there's still 4 years more before it TOPs ma. So for freehold developments, how do we use this thing to calculate? Is we base it on the TOP date. So we give a 4 to 5 years advantage for the freehold, which is what the freehold deserves. And then from there, we go through the same calculation. We divide the pricing by the remaining age, multiply by 99. So with all this in place already, how are we going to be helping you to help you derive an analysis? At least you know a thought process and effort and a dedication has been done. So with all this in place, after we tick each box, yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes, no, blah, 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 we will see from there, on the quality side of things, a summary will be provided, and any major weakness that will affect the exit strategy, anything that's so detrimental, will be highlighted. Same thing for the pricing, a summary will be provided, any major weaknesses and detrimental values will be highlighted. And finally, the exit strategy, a summary will be provided based on the above on the quality entry price attribute accompanied by all the various factors within the exit strategy, right? And then from there, we will come up with a final verdict. At least you know both parties, the consumer and the agents, point of view is taken out of the picture, and it is only based on a very logical, non-biased analysis. At least we walk through the steps to go through to do the due diligence to analyze this product itself. Alright, from there, sometimes it can be because the development is good, but the particular unit itself may not be so ideal due to detrimental facings or price too expensive. We will then from there offer alternatives within the same development that can actually fulfill all these criteria instead. Or sometimes just the development itself is already failed in terms of attributes. Then of course we will offer the verdict, and maybe we need to look for other alternatives in a way. All in all, what we want to achieve for you is like this in this picture as what we have seen. The best scenario is where the circumference of the circles can touch the sides of the triangle, and that itself you will have the best development. But of course in Singapore there's no such thing as best development, am I right or not? Alright, so the best is of course we can profile accordingly to get the best of each circle. So to wrap up this explanation of this QPE for you, every factor plays a part in determining a good resale. The key idea here is to purchase a good resale with good macro and micro qualities at the right entry price with a viable exit strategy. What we really want to do for you here is actually to instill a certain structure within the fluidity and the dynamism of the real estate market. Alright, so to see this whole QPE framework or ARPS framework in action, alright, so here we have the Minton itself. Alright, this is one in the OCR 99 leasehold. Alright, we use a 3-bedroom as an example. We have this one here at Unit 0332, which was bought in 15 August 2018 at a purchase price of 1028 PSF, held for 1247 days, and in the end it was sold at 1225 PSF with a square footage of 1216 on 13th of Jan 2022. So 4 years of holding period. Alright, so all I need is just 3 things: the transactions, the site plan and the floor plan. Of course, probably if I needed to know what the view is, we would then need to go Google Maps to check out the view. Alright, so we can see just based on this itself, Unit 0332, alright, it is located in this block itself, facing the water features of the landscaping. And you can see from here, based on the distribution of blocks, the landscaping is quite evenly distributed with all the facilities catering to very good homestay livability needs. Alright, the kids can clearly run around, you got very nice landscape, you got very spaced out resort style living. So all these things all contribute to the attributes that we were looking for. And with that in mind, this is no surprise, 0332 being a low floor itself, profited 240k as a resale. Alright, within 3 years and 5 months of holding period. And if we look at the profile that we have here for you and we go down the attributes, you will realize that Minton itself has efficient layout, reasonable sizing, so on and so forth. You can see in this slide itself, everything is a yes, but of course it does not have good transportation linkages because only 1 to 2 bus services goes past there. There is no MRT access, and of course tenant pool may not be so strong. Alright, and if we backtrack it and we compare the past transaction pricing, they were pretty reasonable back then during the 2018 period. And with that in mind, after we key in all the attributes, this is actually the profile that we get for unit 0332. Alright, so if we go through the whole analysis, we look at the summary itself. It has very efficient layout with a yard, storeroom and enclosed kitchen, which is important for 3-bedroom. Reasonable sizing of 1216 square feet with good facing that is sitting on a big plot of land. Alright, the only disadvantage down here is the walking distance to MRT, but accessible with bus. Cafes, parks, educational institutions, they are all within the vicinity. So with quality in check, there is not much major transformation there, alright, back then. And of course, with the distance away from the MRT, these are your two not so ideal attributes within the quality aspect. And if we look at the pricing side, it was reasonable PSF at 1028 PSF. You may say this is on a hindsight thing, but I actually did go back to check on the pricings back then for 3 bedrooms. It was pretty reasonable in that sense. Alright, and of course, we go through the pricing checks and we realize that the historical trend has also been on a very healthy trend. Exit strategy, there's very little supply of competition in the area. The only competition back then was all the small boutique developments. Alright, we have Forestwood emerging after that, but that still doesn't throw the supply factors off scale. Okay, although it's 99 leasehold, but most of the freeholds in the area are all small land sizes which are not comparable to Minton. Quality fits the criteria, entry price fits the criteria. So we came out with a final verdict where it is an excellent layout with all major attributes such as enclosed kitchen, yard and utility. The only downside is the MRT distance, which is still walkable, but there is still bus services. Not a major turn-off given the entry price point, which is too hard to ignore and definitely not overpaying. So if you're looking for something that is own stay and able to accept the disadvantage, the unit is acceptable as it provides strong exit strategy with little competition in the area. So this kind of analysis will be given to you if you decide to engage myself or any one of our agents, but at least I hope through this video we are able to give you a different empowerment that you are able to choose a good resale for yourself. But definitely it still plays a part in terms of experience, and that's why we are able to help you go through the list and see from there which one is yes, which one is no, and does it really form a detrimental aspect of things. All in all, this case study itself can show you how the system works, but ultimately you still need a little bit of the acumen and experience from a consultant like ourselves. But at least we know the third party influence between yourself as a consumer and myself are taken out of this analysis, and we are standing by the side doing in a facilitated thought process to help you evaluate the analysis of this property itself. Alright, so here is another bad example. So I just show you a good example of the OCR that follows this framework. Well, we can see a bad example. Alright, so a bad example would be something like Cambio Suites itself. Right, this is also within the District 19 vicinity. We can see from here we just need these three things: the site plan, floor plan and transactions. The site plan itself is a small site where we have just 2 blocks, low rise, 5 stories. This is what the layout is. Alright, you got your big PES, you got your 3 bedrooms, and from here can you see there's no enclosable kitchen. The living and dining, they are intercepting each other. You got a bomb shelter, you got big PES. How is this even livable? First of all, when you cook, the fumes from your kitchen are going to go into all the bedrooms. Your living and dining are coinciding with each other, meaning to say the designated space is overlapping, and for your own family needs it's not so ideal as well. Bedrooms fortunately can fit a queen bed, very good, but otherwise why do you need such a big PES pushing your quantum up? You can see from the transactions, they are mostly unprofitable transactions with little transactions driving the market. Alright, so based on the quality aspects, we go from the micro aspect to the macro aspect. Mostly no, because does it have an efficient layout? Nope. Does it have major negatives? Yes. Face the road. Alright, and then of course, is it a reasonable sizing? Because of the PES itself, it pushes the quantum up, it pushes the sizing up. We go on to the project specific consideration. I'm a bit stricter here. I want 100,000 square feet previously. Alright, then we see that does it have full facilities? Nope, only a pool. Alright, does it have reasonable density? Nope, only 60 units. So you can see all in all, the livability factors are not in check, right? And if we look at it, the macro quality is probably the same as what the Minton can propose, so not much changes here. Entry price, does it have reasonable PSF versus the past transactions? Not really. And then of course, we look at the floor level, listing price versus the rental yield. It's obviously because of the sizing and the pricing is not going to meet the mark. And does it have good track record? Nope. Alright, because a lot of them are little transactions with unprofitable transactions. Does it have a clear exit strategy? Nope, because while level of supply in the vicinity, it's fine, not that much to go about. There's only another one called Cambio, and then level of demand not so high because of this kind of layout. The livability factors are not met. It's still an open concept kitchen. Alright, so mostly it's a no for me, and this is how your profile looks like, 3 marbles. So we see from here all the detrimental factors are highlighted, such as land plot is small with no good landscaping, developer is a small time developer that emerged to ride on the wave, pricing wise unreasonable PSF, asking price is unacceptable, exit strategy, level of supply competition in the vicinity is low, but there is, due to the layout, the landscaping and all, the livability factors are not met, and ultimately what happens? You have very poor exit strategy. So final verdict, it does not provide a strong exit strategy due to small land size, high pricing and inefficient layout that does not meet the demands of this area. There is not much improvement that can be done as the main attributes of land size, big patio and lack of kitchen, etc. cannot be altered. This will be a bad choice and one should not even consider, even if it's for own stay purpose, as there is absolutely no exit without making a loss. You can see from here how our ARPS system is able to help you identify units with poor exit strategy. So anyway, this is applicable to RCR and also CCR developments as well. So you can see from here, here are some quick examples where we have City Square, Residences, 0604. This is exactly a unit that I actually sold my client. Alright, and in the end, they profit 150k within 4 years of holding period just from a 2-bedroom itself. Alright, and of course here is a quick showing of the profiling of this development. And of course within the same vicinity, there's another development called Rangoon 88, also at the same size of unit, but you can see because of the poor layout, that's why people are mostly making losses here. This is a quick showing of the profile. Same thing, this is Ardmore Park 4-bedroom. Why this development, being more than 20 years old already, is still able to year on year break new records because of very high livability factors. You go and have a drive down there one day, you will see how they maintain their guardhouse, their guard post. You will see how they maintain their lobby. Yeah, it looks a little bit like Shangri-La with the beige, earthly toned marbles, but you can see how they upkeep it with consistent polishing to make sure the shine and glow is there. Big pool, resort style pool that holds its charm even till today. Look at the unit itself, 2,600 square with no wastage of space. Livability factor is very high despite it being an old development, and you can see based on the transaction itself, it is consistent, it is uniform, there is a need and it meets the needs, and that is the main reason why livability factors are strong. They consistently have a clear exit strategy despite some of the units being 3 to 4 resale owners already. Alright, and this is the quick profile of Ardmore Park itself. Alright, so by the time we have reached the end of this video, if you know how to appreciate the framework and structure that we have in place, then you will realize how flexible and versatile this framework and structure is. Alright, why I say this is because if you look at it, it's not just about looking at it as a form of how to choose a good resale, but it also can be applied to how to determine a clear exit strategy for your new launch. By inputting this itself, you will also realize that we can see clearly how the new launch would look like in the eyes of a resale buyer. And with that in mind, this framework actually is very suitable for that as well. But also, if you are a seller today, right, definitely I understand that all sellers are very proud of their home. That's why you bought the house to begin with. You needed a place to stay. This is your dream home to begin with, and you want a clear way how to determine your pricing. Another usage of this framework is when you are a seller of this unit, because we understand sellers are really house proud. Alright, that's the main reason why you bought the house in the first place, because this is your dream home. In a way, you are comfortable staying in it, and definitely because you stay in it for many years, you have developed an affection and you will feel that the house is a good one. alright, but sometimes we want a clear and effective way to determine how is it like on the ground. So you want to know what is the positioning of your unit with a non-biased point of view, alright, and this framework will be able to help you see this. How does your unit look like in front of a current buyer in this current market? And this framework is able to help you to do so. For new launch wise, because we have always been focusing on the logical aspects of things, right? We go from the purpose to the macro understanding to even frameworks on how do we choose units, but you realize all these are all logical, right? After all, when resale buyers buy over your unit, they are always emotional. So this framework itself will help you see the unit that you are about to buy, how it looks like in the eyes of a buyer, and it will take care of the emotional aspects of things to ensure that you have a clear exit strategy even for your new launch. So most importantly, if you are going for a resale, how should you be doing your negotiations? Alright, and that's the part where you can also call me, set up a one-to-one consultation with me so that we can guide you how to do homework for your negotiations for your resale property, as well as for your new launch, how to select your development and select your unit. But most importantly, am I right to say, if you can't even get past the current market obstacles, give you the best product, you also won't buy, because you just can't seem to find that call to action, as the market obstacles are way too big and it's stopping you from taking action. So now this wraps up the 3 episodes of how do we select your project, your unit, and most importantly, a hybrid of resale and new launch selection as well. Alright, the last part actually covers on the exit strategy the most. So if you like my in-depth content so far, remember to like, share and subscribe. Alright, I really appreciate all your support and all the positive feedback so far. I'm also constantly improving on my delivery and the way I structure my content. So remember to like, share and subscribe as I stay motivated in empowering you as my audiences, consumers and my fans out there.